Sarah McAllister tugged the reins of her bay mare and squinted across the rising river. Spring rains had turned the usually calm crossing into a churning mess of brown water and swirling debris, but she wasn't about to let that stop her. She had cattle to check on and a long ride home ahead. Just as she nudged her horse toward the bank, another rider approached from the opposite side, broad-shouldered, hat low, dripping attitude. Lois Carter. Of all the cowboys in the territory, it had to be him. "What are you doing, trying to cross first?" Sarah called out. "That side's shallow, you wait your turn," Lewis snorted. "I was here before you even thought about crossin', sweetheart. Don't recall you owning the whole river." "I don't gotta own it to cross it," she shot back, folding her arms. "And don't call me sweetheart." He smirked. "Sure thing, darlin'." Sarah's jaw clenched. Louis had been a thorn in her side since childhood, always strutting around with that slow, confident grin, always arguing just because he liked to watch her get riled up. Today was no different, except the river between them snarled louder than either of their tempers. A loud crack echoed as a tree trunk slammed into a rock, sending up a spray. Sarah's horse danced sideways. Lewis's posture stiffened. "Water's risin' fast," he said, tone shifting. "You try crossin' now, you're liable to get swept all the way to Carson's Gulch." Sarah didn't want to admit it, but he wasn't wrong. The current surged harder every minute. Her stubbornness warred with her common sense. "We can wait it out," she muttered. Louis nodded. "Yeah, together." The word "together" landed awkwardly between them, heavier than the storm clouds gathering overhead. They dismounted and led their horses under a cluster of pines. Raindrops plinked on their hats as tensions simmered. "Just so we're clear," Sarah said, "when the water settles, I'm going first." Lewis chuckled low. "We'll see about that." Despite herself, Sarah felt something warm, flicker annoying, confusing, dangerous. But she shoved it down, focusing on the roaring river. The storm wasn't done, and neither were they. Rain hammered the pine branches above them, dripping down in cold rivulets. Sarah pulled her coat tighter, while Louis crouched near the bank, studying the river like he could will it to behave. "The water was higher than before, Miner, too. Looks like it'll be hours before we can cross," Louis muttered. Sarah rolled her eyes. "I can see that. Genius. You think I don't know water when I'm looking at it?" Louis shot her a sideways grin. "Just making conversation." "Well, don't," she snapped, though the corner of her mouth twitched. She hated that he could still get under her skin with one sentence. A sudden thunderclap sent both horses rearing. Sarah rushed to calm her mare, gripping the reins and murmuring softly. Louis steadied his gelding with a firm hand. They exchanged a quick glance, worried, not at each other, but at the growing danger. "We need shelter," Louis said, voice firm. "There's an old trapper's cabin a half-mile up. Roof's leaky, but better than getting struck by lightning." Sarah sighed, knowing he was right. "Fine, but only 'cause I don't want to die out here." They mounted and rode side by side, rain slapping their faces. The forest grew darker, the storm screaming through the branches. By the time they reached the cabin, both were soaked through. Louis shouldered open the sagging door, letting them in. The inside smelled like dust, pine, and old smoke, but it was dry. They tied the horses under the porch, then returned inside, shaking off water. "Firewood's damp," Louis said while rummaging through the cabin. "But I'll get something started." "You always act like you know everything," Sarah muttered. He glanced over his shoulder. "Only when I do." That earned him a glare, but a softer one. As he worked, Sarah watched the muscles in his arms as he coaxed sparks from wet kindling. She hated noticing. She hated that her chest gave a tiny flutter when he finally got the fire going. Warmth filled the cabin, cracks glowed orange, and the storm roared outside. Inside, the tension had changed, less sharp, more charged. Louis leaned back on his heels. "Guess we're stuck together for a while." Sarah swallowed. "Looks like," but something inside her whispered. She didn't mind as much as she should. By morning, the storm had passed, but the river hadn't forgiven anything. They stepped outside to find the crossing completely swallowed. Logs, branches, and uprooted brush raced by in a violent surge. Sarah exhaled. "We're not crossing anytime soon." Louis rubbed the back of his neck. "Might be days before this settles. Flood like this'll take out fences, livestock, everything." Sarah stiffened. Her ranch sat on low land too close to the creek for comfort. "I gotta get home," she whispered. Louis turned to her. "I'll help you get back. But we ain't macking it through that." He nodded to the raging river. "Unless you got wings I don't know about." She kicked at a rock in frustration. "I don't need help. Everyone needs help sometimes," he said softly. She looked at him, really looked hand for the first time. She saw worry in his eyes. Not for himself. For her. Before she could answer, a distant cry echoed through the trees. They froze. The sound came again, panicked, high-pitched, a horse. They raced toward it, weaving between trees until they spotted a small chestnut mare trapped against a fallen log, water rising around her legs. A saddle lay half submerged nearby. "Someone was riding her," Sarah said. Louis scanned the area. "Rider must have been thrown." "Sarah, wait. Current's strong. I'm not letting her drown," she shouted. Together, they pushed through waist-high water, bracing against the current. The mare struggled, eyes wild. Louis reached her first, gripping her bridle. "Easy, girl," he murmured. Sarah wedged herself between the log and the current, using her body as a barrier. Louis on 3. They heaved. The mare scrambled free, splashing to the bank. Sarah stumbled, losing her footing as the current snatched at her legs. Louis lunged, grabbing her arm. He hauled her close to close, heart pounding against hers. "You trying to get yourself killed?" he breathed. Sarah's cheeks flushed. "I had it handled." "No," he said, voice low. "But we handled it." The words hung between them, charged, electric, and neither stepped back. The rescued mare trembled near a fallen pine as Sarah stroked her neck, whispering soothing words. Louis checked the saddle, finding initials carved faintly into the leather JT. "I know who this belongs to," he said grimly. "Jacob Turner's boy. He's 13, skinny kid. Likes ridin' fast." Sarah's chest tightened. "If he's out here alone, then we gotta find him." No arguing this time. They mounted their horses and started tracking along the flood-wrecked forest edge. Broken brush, hoofprints, and scrapes on trees painted a trail of desperation. After an hour, Louis pointed, "Boot prints, small ones." Sarah leaned forward in her saddle. "He's close." They followed the trail until they reached a rocky slope where the river cut dangerously near the forest. A small figure clung to a crooked cedar halfway down, water lashing below. Sarah gasped. "He'll fall." Jacob Turner Jr. looked up, face pale. "Help, I can't get back up." Louis didn't hesitate. He swung off his horse and tied a rope to his saddle horn. "Sarah, anchor the other end." She wrapped it around a sturdy tree, bracing herself. "Be careful," she murmured. Louis flashed her that familiar, cocky grinix. This time, it wasn't arrogance. It was reassurance. He lowered himself toward the trembling boy, boots slipping on mud-slick rock. "Easy, kid," Louis said. "Grab my hand." The boy hesitated, crying, "I'm scared." Louis softened. "Trust me, I got you." That same quiet, confident, steady, warm washed over Sarah as she watched him. This was Louis when he dropped the smirk, the teasing, the stubborn pride. This was Louis. She didn't want to admit she admired. Louis gripped the boy's wrist and pulled him in, guiding him slowly up the slope. The rope strained, Sarah tightening her hold until her palms burned. Finally, Louis reached the top with the boy in his arms. Sarah rushed to them. "You're okay," she breathed, brushing the boy's hair from his face. Louis was breathing hard, mud smeared across his cheek. Their eyes met, the moment thick with unspoken things. "You did good," she said softly. They escorted Jacob safely to his father's ranch before riding back toward the river. Hours had passed, and the floodwaters finally began to recede. Debris still churned, but the furious surge had calmed into something crossable. Sarah studied the river, boots sinking in the damp earth. Looks like we can finally head home. Bluey stood beside her, close enough that she felt his warmth. Reckon so. For the first time all day, there was no bickering, only something quietly simmering. Sarah cleared her throat. Guess we should settle who crosses first. Louis smirked. Ladies first. She shot him a look. Now, you're being agreeable. That's suspicious. He chuckled. I ain't trying to start another fight. Sarah nudged her mare toward the bank, but Louis stepped closer, his voice dropping. Truth is, I don't mind when you fight me. She froze. Why's that? Means you're paying attention. Her breath caught. Louis, you're something fierce, Sarah. Always have been. But today seeing you risk yourself, help that boy. I don't want this to be the last time we ride together. She swallowed hard. You're still a pain in the backside. I know, he grinned. But maybe I'm your pain in the backside. She laughed. Real, maybe you are. His hand brushed hers. She didn't pull away. The river glittered under the setting sun, calmer now, like it was waiting for them to make a choice. Sarah looked at him, then at the water. Crossin' together, she asked. Louis smiled softly. Together. They rode side by side into the shallows. The current tugged, but their horses were steady. When they reached the opposite bank, Sarah exhaled, relief warming her chest. Louis turned to her. Reckon that means we're partners now. She tilted her head. Partners in what? He leaned closer. Whatever you'll have me in. Heat rose in her cheeks. She punched his arm lightly. Don't get ahead of yourself. Too late, he murmured. Their laughter blended with the fading rush of the river. The storm long behind them, but something new just beginning. As they rode toward the glowing horizon, Sarah realized maybe stubborn cowboys weren't the worst thing in the world, especially one who'd crossed a river for her. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.